Ethan lived alone on a quiet ranch that stretched across the dry open land like a brown blanket. Most days were simple and predictable. He woke up before sunrise, fed his horses, checked the fences, and spent the afternoons repairing tools or tending to the animals. He spoke very little, not because he disliked people, but because the ranch had been his whole world for years. The silence of nature had become his closest friend. On the day everything changed, the sky was painted in a soft golden color. The sun was beginning to sink behind the hills, and Ethan was finishing his final task stacking hay bales near the barn. He wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand and stretched his aching shoulders. Just then, the peaceful evening air broke, with the distant sound of a vehicle approaching. This was strange. People rarely visited the ranch. The nearest town was a long drive away, and most travelers avoided these dusty roads, unless they had a reason. Ethan looked up and narrowed his eyes as he saw headlights moving slowly toward his gate. The old pickup truck came to a shaky stop. For a moment, no one stepped out. The engine clicked softly as it cooled, and Ethan felt a small wave of curiosity mixed with concern. He brushed off his jeans and walked toward the gate, ready to greet whoever had come. Finally, the door opened. A young woman stepped out, nervous, tired, and holding something close to her chest. She looked around, as if unsure whether she had reached the right place. Her clothes were dusty, her face pale, and her eyes carried a kind of fear he could not understand. "Are you Ethan Marshall?" she asked in a trembling voice. Ethan nodded. "Yes, ma'am. How can I help?" She held up the object in her hands, a small wooden box covered with an old, faded cloth. The cloth was tied at the corners, as if it were protecting something precious or fragile inside. Even from a distance, Ethan could see how tightly she held it, almost as if she feared someone might take it away. "My name is Maya," she said, taking a shaky breath. I was told you might be the only person who can help me with this." Ethan looked from her face to the covered box and back again. Her hands were shaking so badly that he stepped closer in case she dropped it. "You look exhausted," he said gently. "Come inside. You can sit, and we can talk." Maya nodded quickly, almost gratefully. It was clear she had been traveling for hours. Ethan opened the gate and guided her toward the porch of his small ranch house. The wooden steps creaked under their feet, and the warm yellow light from the porch lamp gave the place a quiet, welcoming glow. Inside, the house smelled faintly of pine wood and warm bread he had baked earlier. Maya sat at the small table near the window, still clutching the box to her chest. Ethan poured her a glass of water and set it in front of her. "Thank you," she whispered, taking a slow sip. Her eyes were still full of worry, and she kept glancing at the covered box, as if expecting something to happen. Ethan pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "Now," he said gently, "tell me what brings you all the way out here with that box." Maya swallowed hard. I inherited this after my grandmother passed away 2 months ago. She left a note saying I must never remove the cloth. Not until I found someone who could understand what this is." She placed the box carefully on the table between them, but even then, her hands hovered above it protectively. Ethan studied the cloth. It was old, worn at the edges, but neatly wrapped. There were no strange shapes sticking out. Nothing dangerous. Still, Maya looked as though it scared her. "Where did you hear about me?" he asked. "My grandmother's note mentioned a ranch. She didn't give your name, only that it was near the old hills, far from town. A family friend helped me figure out the exact place." Ethan frowned slightly. He could not think of any reason an older woman would have known his family. But the world was full of hidden connections. His father, who passed away years ago, had been well respected in this region. Maybe someone remembered him. "What makes you think I can help with it?" he asked. Maya took a deep breath, her fingers tightening around the box again. "Because strange things happened when I took it home." Her voice shook. Ethan leaned forward, giving her time to continue. "At night, I would hear soft humming from inside the box. The first time, I thought it was just my imagination. But it kept happening. Some nights, it felt like the box was warm when I touched it, even though the room was cold. And sometimes, it felt heavier, like something inside it changed. Ethan listened quietly, not judging or interrupting. Maya's expression was not the expression of someone making up a story. She truly believed what she was saying. "I wanted to open it," she admitted, her eyes filling with guilt. "I almost did. But I remembered my grandmother's note. She always took rules seriously, and I didn't want to disrespect her last request. So you came all the way here," Ethan said slowly. "Just to find out what's inside this?" "No." Her voice softened. "I came because I'm scared. And because she asked me to find someone who could recognize it." Those were her exact words. Ethan leaned back slightly, thinking. He could still hear the wind outside brushing against the wooden walls. This was not the kind of problem he was used to dealing with. He could fix fences, calm horses, mend roofs, but a humming box passed down from a grandmother? That was new territory. Still, something in Maya's eyes, fear mixed with hope, made him feel responsible. This young woman had driven all day, maybe longer, trusting a stranger on a distant ranch. "Let me see it," he said softly, but Maya's reaction shocked him. She instantly shook her head, clutching the box tightly again. "No, please. Not yet. I'm not ready for anyone to lift the cloth. I don't know what might happen." Ethan raised his hands calmly. "All right. I won't touch it unless you're okay with it." Her breathing slowed a little. And she set the box down, though she kept both hands gently resting on top of it. Ethan remained patient. "You came here for help. Whatever this is, we'll figure it out step by step. You're safe here." Maya nodded slowly, her eyes softening. The tension in her shoulders eased just a little. "I trust you," she said quietly. "I don't know why, but I do." The room fell silent for a moment. Only the ticking of an old wall clock filled the space. Outside, the last light of the sun faded, leaving the ranch in calm darkness. Ethan looked at the covered box again. Something about it felt old, not dangerous, but heavy with a story waiting to be told. He didn't believe in unusual objects or strange powers, but he did believe that people carried fears they didn't understand, and this woman clearly needed someone to help her carry hers. He stood up. "You must be hungry," he said. "Let me warm up some bread and soup. You can rest a bit." Maya looked surprised but grateful. "Thank you. I haven't eaten since morning." 4. As Ethan walked to the kitchen, he glanced back at the box one more time. In the dim light, the cloth seemed almost to shift slightly. Maybe just a trick of shadows. But it made him wonder. Whatever was hidden inside that box, he had a feeling it was about to change everything. The warm soup and fresh bread seemed to bring some color back to Maya's face. She ate slowly, as if her mind was still somewhere else, still worried about the box resting on the table. Ethan didn't push her to talk right away. He believed that people opened up naturally once they felt safe. And he wanted her to feel that safety. After a few quiet minutes, she finally placed her spoon down and sighed deeply. "I should explain everything," she said, her voice soft but steady. Ethan nodded and leaned back in his chair, giving her his full attention. "It all started the day my grandmother passed away," Maya began. "She had been sick for a long time, but she was always strong. Even in her final days, she kept telling me that there was something I needed to understand after she was gone." Maya's eyes softened with sadness, but she continued. "When we were cleaning her room, we found this box placed in her drawer, wrapped carefully in this cloth. There was a note under it. The paper was old and worn. The writing was faded, but we were able to read her message." She paused and closed her eyes, repeating the words from memory. She wrote, "Do not remove this cloth unless the right person asks you to. When the time comes, go to the ranch near the old hills. There, someone will recognize it." Ethan listened quietly. The words sounded mysterious, but not alarming. It felt like the beginning of a long, hidden family story, rather than something dangerous. At first, Maya continued, I didn't think much of it. I just thought it was one of her sentimental things, maybe something she kept from her childhood. But then, strange things started happening. She looked at the box again, her expression tight. The first night I brought it home, I woke up to a soft humming sound. It was coming from the drawer where I placed the box. It sounded like a low tune, almost like someone humming a calm melody. I thought maybe there was something electronic inside it, like an old music box. But when I checked the next morning, the box was completely cold and still. Ethan rested his elbows on his knees. Did it happen again? Yes, she whispered. Almost every night. And the warmth. Sometimes when I touched the cloth, it felt warm, as if someone had been holding it moments before. But the room would be freezing. She looked up, her eyes filled with both fear and confusion. Then one morning, I picked it up and almost dropped it because it felt heavier than before. I even asked my cousin to hold it to see if I was imagining things. She said it felt normal to her. But that night, to me, it felt heavy again. Ethan rubbed his chin thoughtfully. He wasn't the type to jump to supernatural explanations. Life had taught him that most odd things had simple answers hidden behind complicated fear. Maybe your grandmother knew something about it, he suggested. Maya nodded. I think so. She always kept things to herself, especially stories from her childhood. My mother said she was a quiet woman, but she carried memories she never shared. One thing I do remember is that she always talked about a ranch family that helped her family many years ago. But she never mentioned names. That made Ethan raise his eyebrows. My father used to help people all the time. He was the type who would stop his work just to help a stranger fix a broken wheel or guide someone lost on the old road. Maya looked hopeful. Do you think your father could have met my grandmother? It's possible, Ethan replied. He lived in this region all his life. People knew him for miles. If your grandmother mentioned a ranch near the hills, it might have been this one. The idea seemed to calm Maya for a moment, but her expression soon returned to worry. Still, the box scares me. Not because I think it's dangerous, but because I don't understand why she kept it hidden all these years. Why didn't she tell me what was inside? Why did she leave such a strange message? Ethan gently pushed the box a little closer to her. Maybe she wanted you to learn something important. Maybe the story behind it is something that connects your family to mine. Maya stared at the cloth that covered the box. Her fingers gently brushed the edge of the faded fabric. I haven't opened it even once. I couldn't. Each time I tried, something inside me stopped me, as if her voice was telling me to wait. Ethan admired her for respecting her grandmother's wishes. You did the right thing. Opening something when your heart is filled with fear never leads to peace. She gave him a small, grateful smile. You sound like my grandmother. She always said fear makes shadows look bigger than they are. Ethan chuckled softly. A smart woman. The room quieted again, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Outside, a gentle breeze brushed against the wooden walls, and the distant sound of horses moving in their stalls filled the silence. After a moment, Ethan asked, Did anything else happen? Any other reason you felt you had to come all the way here? Maya hesitated before speaking. There was one more thing. It happened 2 nights before I decided to leave for the ranch. She lowered her voice slightly. I woke up again because of the humming. But this time, it wasn't soft. It was louder. Almost like the box wanted to be noticed. I got out of bed and walked toward it. As I reached out to touch the cloth, the humming stopped. Completely, and suddenly, the whole room felt cold. I don't know why, but I stepped back and couldn't go any closer. Ethan felt a small chill run up his spine, not from fear of the box, but from sensing just how deeply this experience had affected her. That was when I knew I had to come here, she finished. I thought, maybe if someone could understand what this box is, or at least its history, I wouldn't feel so frightened of it. Ethan leaned back and thought for a moment. I believe your grandmother trusted that someone here would know something. Maybe she thought the story inside this box belonged to both our families. Maya looked down at the box again. The cloth was quite old, the threads fraying at the edges. Do you think I made the right decision by bringing it? Ethan nodded slowly. I do. Sometimes answers live in places we least expect. She sighed, relieved. I hope so. Because I don't want to live with this fear anymore. I want to know what she wanted me to learn. Ethan decided not to push her further. You've had a long day. Why don't you rest for a while? There's a spare room you can use. Maya looked surprised. I don't want to trouble you. It's no trouble, Ethan said kindly. You shouldn't be driving in the dark, especially when you're this worn out. She hesitated, then nodded. Thank you. Really. As she stood, she reached for the box instinctively. Ethan noticed how her hands trembled again. You can leave it here, he suggested softly. It's safe. Ethan, but she shook her head. No, I can't let it out of my sight. Not yet. Ethan didn't argue. She carried the box with both hands, as though it were a part of her. He watched as she walked toward the small guest room. Her steps were slow, but she looked calmer than she had earlier. Perhaps sharing her fears had lifted some weight from her shoulders. When she disappeared into the room, Ethan remained at the table, staring at the empty space where the box had been. A strange tug pulled at his memory. Something about the way the box was wrapped or the shape of it seemed familiar, though he couldn't place why. He sighed, rubbing his tired eyes. What were you hiding, Dad? He murmured to himself. He didn't believe in mysterious objects that changed weight or hummed on their own. But he did believe that the past had a way of returning when it needed to. And something told him that whatever was inside that box was tied to a story his father never got to finish telling. Outside, the night grew darker, and the ranch fell quiet again. But inside Ethan's home, the air felt different, like the beginning of a truth waiting to be uncovered. Ethan didn't sleep much that night. After Maya went to the guest room with the box, he stayed in the kitchen, drinking warm tea and thinking about everything she had told him. The house was quiet, but his mind was full of questions. What was inside the box? Why did her grandmother trust someone on this ranch? And why did Maya fear it so much? He finally walked to his room. But even in bed, he could not relax. Something about the situation felt familiar. Like a memory he couldn't reach. His father's old journal came to mind, pages filled with stories of people he had helped long ago, places he had visited, and things he had found. Ethan wondered if the box had anything to do with one of those forgotten stories. When morning came, he stepped outside to feed the horses. The fresh air helped clear his thoughts. The sky was bright, and soft clouds drifted lazily. But Ethan's mind kept drifting back to the guest room, where Maya was likely still sleeping with the mysterious box beside her. After finishing his chores, he returned to the house and found Maya sitting at the table, the box placed carefully in front of her. She looked tired, as if her sleep had been restless. Morning, Ethan said gently. Maya looked up with a small, nervous smile. Morning. I didn't sleep very well. He nodded. I figured. Want some breakfast? She agreed, and he made eggs and toast. They ate quietly. But Ethan knew the silence wouldn't last long. Maya kept glancing at the box, and her fingers tapped nervously against the wooden surface. Finally, she said, Ethan. His eyes met hers. She looked scared, but determined, like someone facing something they had avoided for too long. Time for what? He asked softly, though he already understood. For you to look at what's inside. Ethan took a slow breath. He felt a mix of curiosity and responsibility. Only if you're sure, he said. She swallowed hard. I am. I came here to find answers, and hiding from this won't bring me any peace. He nodded. Then, we'll do it together. Maya breathed shakily and carefully placed both hands on the box. Ethan saw that she was struggling to steady her fingers. Would you feel better if I lifted the cloth? He asked gently. She hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Please. I don't think I can do it myself. Ethan reached out slowly, not wanting to rush or frighten her. The cloth was softer than he expected, and old, almost fragile. He lifted a corner just a little to see her reaction. Maya bit her lip, but didn't stop him. So he lifted it fully. As soon as the cloth came off, Ethan froze. Inside the box lay a small, beautifully crafted pendant, old, delicate, and unlike anything he had seen in years. It was oval-shaped, made of a smooth, translucent stone that glowed faintly when light touched it. Tiny patterns were carved along its edges, patterns Ethan recognized instantly. He went pale. Maya leaned forward quickly. What? What is it? Do you know it? Ethan didn't answer at first. He just stared, his heart suddenly beating faster. He reached out and touched the pendant lightly. It felt warm, almost alive, but not in a frightening way. More like it carried memories. Finally, he spoke. I've seen this before, not in person, but in my father's journal. Maya gasped. Your father? Ethan nodded slowly. He wrote about a family he helped many years ago, a family trapped in a mountain storm. He saved a child and her mother. He mentioned that they gave him a gift as thanks, a pendant that glowed softly because of the minerals inside, but he lost it during another storm. He searched for it for years and never found it. Maya's eyes widened. My grandmother. She used to talk about being rescued in a storm when she was a little girl. She never gave details, but she said a kind man saved her. Ethan felt chills. I think your grandmother was that child. And this, he nodded toward the pendant, was the gift they gave my father. Maya stared at the pendant with new understanding. So all these years, she kept it safe? See, yes, Ethan said softly. My father always wondered what happened to it. He wrote that the pendant was made from a rare mineral found near the old mountains. That's why it glows. And it also reacts to temperature. That's why you felt warmth and cold. Maya placed a hand gently over her heart. That explains the humming too. Maybe something inside it shifts with heat. Ethan nodded. It makes sense. My father wrote that tiny pieces of metal inside could sometimes vibrate when the stone changed temperature. Maya let out a shaky breath. So it was nothing dangerous. Just something old and meaningful. Ethan nodded again, smiling softly. Exactly. Your grandmother probably didn't want you to open it until you were ready to understand its history. Maya's eyes grew misty. She always protected me, even after she was gone. Ethan felt a warm sense of connection forming between them, not romantic, but deeply human. Their families had crossed paths long before either of them were born, and now life had brought them together again to finish the story. He gently picked up the pendant, feeling its weight. My father would have been glad to know this wasn't lost forever, he said. Maya reached out hesitantly. May I hold it? Of course. He placed the pendant in her hands. She held it with surprising confidence, no trembling, no fear. Instead, her expression softened into something peaceful. It's warm, she whispered, but it feels comforting, not scary. Ethan smiled. Maybe it always belonged with your family. She looked up. But your father, didn't he lose it? Doesn't it belong to you? Ethan shook his head. My father cared more about the story behind things than about owning them. If your grandmother kept it all these years, she must have believed it held something important for you. And I think she was right. Maya wiped her eyes gently. I can't believe I was so scared of this. You weren't scared of the object, Ethan said kindly. You were scared of the unknown. Anyone would be. She nodded slowly. But now that we know the truth, I feel relieved. They sat there quietly for a moment, both taking in the significance of what they had discovered. The pendant had traveled through time, storms, generations, and fear, just to bring two families' stories back together. Maya looked at Ethan gratefully. Thank you for helping me. I don't think I could have faced this alone. You weren't alone, he said with a calm smile. And you never had to be. She closed the box gently, placing the pendant back inside with care. The cloth was still beside it, but this time, she didn't rush to cover it. She touched it lightly and said, I think it doesn't need to be hidden anymore. Ethan nodded. Your grandmother trusted you to know when the right time would come. And now you understand. Maya smiled a real smile, free of fear. Yes, I finally do. Outside, sunlight filled the room through the window, touching the box and the pendant with a gentle glow. It felt like the world itself was acknowledging the truth they had uncovered. Ethan stood up. There's something I want to show you, he said. What is it? My father's journals. They might help you understand even more about this pendant and your grandmother's story. Maya's eyes lit up with curiosity. I'd love to see them. And as Ethan walked toward the old shelf where the journals were kept, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, a sense of purpose. A feeling that life had brought him exactly where he needed to be. And in that moment, he knew that the journey was not just about uncovering what was inside the box, it was about uncovering the hidden connection between two families, tied together by kindness, gratitude, and time. Ethan led Maya to the small study room at the back of the house. It was a quiet place filled with old wooden shelves, stacks of books, and several leather-bound journals that once belonged to his father. The room smelled faintly of paper and pine, a comforting mix that made the past feel close and alive. These were my father's, Ethan said, running his fingers gently along the spines. He wrote everything down, stories, memories, things he wanted to remember. Maya stepped closer, her eyes soft with curiosity. He must have been someone who valued the little things. Ethan nodded. He believed memories were a treasure. Even the smallest moment could carry meaning. He pulled out a journal worn at the corners. The leather cracked from years of use. This one, he said, might have something about your grandmother. They sat at the desk together, and Ethan carefully opened the journal. The handwritten pages were filled with neat, steady words. As he flipped through them, Maya leaned slightly forward, her eyes scanning each line, hoping for something that connected her family to his. Then Ethan stopped. There, he whispered. At the top of the page was a date from decades ago. Beneath it, Ethan's father had written about a storm in the mountains. The words described heavy snow, sharp winds, and a cold that chilled even the strongest hearts. But the writing soon shifted to something warmer. He had found a woman and her young daughter trapped near a fallen tree. He helped them reach shelter, carried the child when she could no longer walk, and stayed with them until the storm passed. Maya's eyes softened. My grandmother always talked about a storm when she was young, she said quietly. She never gave details, but she said someone saved her. And her mother. Ethan continued reading. His voice grew gentle as he spoke the words aloud. They were kind people, the journal said. The mother thanked me with a pendant made from a rare stone her husband had found in the mountains. She said it brought comfort to her family. I accepted it. But during another storm, I lost it. I searched for days, but could not find it again. I hope one day, it finds its way back to where it belongs. Maya placed a hand over her mouth. He hoped it would return. And it did. Ethan smiled softly. Not to him but to his son. She looked at him, her eyes filled with emotion. And to his story. Ethan closed the journal gently. Your grandmother must have held on to the pendant because it reminded her of the kindness she received. She probably didn't know how to explain the whole story when you were younger, so she waited. And when her time came, she left it in your hands. Maya looked down at the box on the desk. The cloth was folded neatly, the pendant resting in the wooden box, like a piece of history waiting to be held. I wish I could ask her why she didn't tell me everything, she whispered. Maybe she wanted you to discover it in your own time, Ethan said gently. Some lessons are understood better when we find them ourselves. Maya smiled faintly. She always believed that. They spent the next hour reading more journal entries, stories of simple kindness, people passing through the ranch, travelers who needed help, and places Ethan's father had visited. Each page felt like a bridge between past and present, giving Maya pieces of a story her grandmother had carried silently for years. When they finally closed the last journal, Maya sighed softly. I feel like I understand her more now. And I understand myself, too. Ethan smiled warmly. I'm glad. She looked at him thoughtfully. Your father was a good man. He was, Ethan agreed. And so was your grandmother. They met in a moment of danger, but they gave each other hope. Maya touched the box with gentle fingers. It feels like their kindness lived on through this pendant. Ethan nodded. Kindness has a way of surviving time. They sat quietly for a moment, letting the truth settle in their hearts. Maya then took a deep breath. There's something I want to ask you. Ethan looked at her with steady eyes. Go ahead. Do you think I should keep the pendant? Or should it stay here? With your father's things? Ethan didn't answer immediately. He wanted to give her an honest answer. After a moment, he said softly, I think it belongs with you. Maya blinked. Why? Because your grandmother kept it safe for you, Ethan said. She trusted you with it. And maybe she believed you would understand its meaning at the right moment. Now that you do, it's where it should be. Maya pressed her lips together, trying not to cry. I was so afraid of it. And now it feels like a gift. Ethan smiled softly. That's because you know its truth now. Maya gently lifted the pendant from the box. It glowed faintly in the sunlight, the same way it had glowed years ago when her grandmother first received it. The stone felt warm in her hand, but this time the warmth comforted her instead of scaring her. It's beautiful, she whispered. It always was, Ethan said. She looked around his father's study room, then back at the pendant. And thank you, she said quietly, for helping me find this story, for listening, for being patient. You're welcome, Ethan replied, his voice calm and kind. I'm glad you came. Maya placed the pendant around her neck. It settled lightly against her skin, as if it had been waiting for this moment for years. For the first time since she had arrived, she looked peaceful, free from the fear and confusion that had followed her for months. She stood up and walked toward the window. The ranch stretched far and wide, bathed in warm golden light. The horses grazed quietly, and the wind moved gently through the grass. It's beautiful here, she said. Ethan walked beside her. That's why I stayed. It's a quiet place, but it has a way of helping people find clarity. Maya nodded, understanding. It helped me, more than I expected. They talked for a while longer, sharing simple stories about their families, their childhoods, and the little things that shaped their lives. It felt natural, as if their connection had been forming long before they met. As the day began to slip into evening, Maya said, I should head back. My family will be waiting. Ethan nodded gently. Will you be all right? She touched the pendant around her neck, her fingers resting on the warm stone. Yes, she said with quiet confidence. For the first time in a long while, I feel calm. He walked her to her truck. Before she got in, she turned to him with a grateful smile. I won't forget this place, or your help, and I won't forget your grandmother's story, Ethan said. It connected our families once and again today. Maya looked at him one last time. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Maya. She started the engine, and the truck rolled slowly down the dusty road. Ethan watched until it became a small dot in the distance. Then he walked back to the porch and sat on the wooden steps, the quiet evening settling around him. He looked out across the land and thought about his father, about the pendant, and about the strange ways life brought people together. Some stories took years to complete, he realized. Some stories waited quietly until they found the right moment, the right people, and the right truth. And now, finally, the story his father began long ago had reached its last chapter, not with fear or mystery, but with understanding and peace. The ranch felt different that evening, not empty, but full. Full of memories, full of history, full of quiet meaning. And Ethan felt grateful to have been part of a story that had traveled across time, storms, generations, and hearts, just to find its ending on a calm, warm evening.